Welcome back to Enablement Uncanned. Before we jump into our topic today, I gotta tell you, Jack's April Fool's joke really blew up in our faces.
You did, didn't it?
Yeah. Saying he was quitting sales to go full-time podcasting. Like, seriously. The guy's inbox was flooded with people wishing him luck, ready to hand over their mics and everything.
Yeah, I saw a few of those messages myself. Pretty convincing, huh?
I know, so convincing that it makes you wonder, right? I mean, is his pipeline really drying up that badly? Is he secretly yearning for those long nights of audio editing?
Maybe we should ask him.
Oh, we definitely will. But
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that for now, his sales career's got a bit more life left in it than his podcasting aspirations.
That's probably a good thing. But, speaking of big changes and maybe even a little bit of upheaval, that kind of leads us nicely into what we're diving deep into today.
It does, doesn't it?
Generative AI in sales. It's the buzzword on everyone's lips, isn't it? Every webinar, every LinkedIn post, every article.
Everywhere.
And it's really making waves, especially in the sales world.
Yeah. I mean, everywhere you look, there's a new AI tool, a new promise of, skyrocketing your productivity, 10xing your output, yada, yada, yada. It's like every software company just slapped an AI sticker on their product and called it a day.
It is a bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, for salespeople in particular, this whole thing brings a whole other layer of considerations, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about, churning out more emails or making more calls. It's about, the very essence of how you connect with your customers.
Right, right.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that human touch, that authenticity, that genuine connection when you've got all this technology whirring in the background?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And it's something that so many of you are grappling with right now, and something that's come up a lot in the research we've been doing for this episode.
Yeah.
That whole to GPT or not to GPT dilemma.
It's like the Hamlet of sales, right? To be or not to be, to GPT or not to GPT.
Exactly. And there are some really specific questions that are bubbling up, practical questions like, which tasks should I be using AI for?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe more importantly, which ones should I absolutely keep doing myself?
And those are huge, right? Because it's not just about efficiency. It's about the impact on your customer relationships. Will using AI actually strengthen those relationships?
Right. Or will it make you come across as, I don't know, a bit robotic, a bit impersonal? And then there's the bigger picture question of, how is all of this going to impact your role, your job as a salesperson in the long run?
Because let's face it, this technology isn't going away.
It's not. It's here to stay. And it's only going to get more sophisticated.
Mm.
So, I think a healthy dose of skepticism is also warranted, right? Can you really trust the information that AI is spitting out?
Yeah, can you? And then how do you even begin to sort through all of the tools that are out there? It's like a jungle.
It is. It really is. And for you, our listeners, the ones who want to stay ahead of the curve, but who also don't want to get bogged down in all the hype and the noise, that's what we're aiming to untangle today.
That's it. We're not getting into the technical weeds here. We're looking at the practical realities of using AI in sales. What's working, what's not, and most importantly, what you need to be thinking about as you navigate this new landscape.
And one of the first things that jumped out at us when we were going through the data and looking at all these different surveys and reports is that, well, salespeople are actually a bit behind the curve compared to other professions.
That's right. We were pretty surprised by that. I mean, you'd think sales would be leading the charge when it comes to AI adoption, right?
Yeah. You would, but it turns out it's actually the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Across all these different roles, we're seeing about 65% of professionals using generative AI in some capacity. But when you break it down, salespeople have the lowest adoption rate.
Customer success, they're at 67%. Product and engineering teams, 70%. Marketers, designers, all the creative folks, 71%. And get this, HR, they're at 100%. 100%.
It's interesting, isn't it? You'd think the function that's all about, driving revenue, building relationships would be the first to jump on the AI bandwagon. But it seems like there's some hesitation, maybe even a little bit of, I don't know, distrust or maybe fear.
Yeah, definitely some skepticism. I think it's a good thing, though. It shows that salespeople are, really thinking critically about this technology and its potential impact. They're not just jumping in blindly.
Absolutely. But for those of you who are dipping your toes in the AI waters, there are definitely some clear benefits that are starting to emerge. We were looking at some research from the Harvard Business Review, and they found that, copywriters and programmers are seeing some pretty significant productivity
Like
gains.
really significant.
In some cases, they're boosting their output by 50% or more. So if you think about it, if AI can do that for those roles, there's a good chance it could do the same for salespeople.
Makes sense.
So let's get down to brass tacks here.
Mm.
How are salespeople actually using generative AI right now? What are they finding helpful?
Yeah, let's get specific because I think a lot of people are still kind of struggling to figure out where this technology fits into their workflows. So one thing we're seeing a lot of is people using AI to kind of bridge their skill gaps.
Right, like if you're not a natural-born writer, for example.
Exactly. AI can help you craft better emails, write more compelling sales pitches, that kind of thing.
It can definitely take some of the pressure off. And another big one is saving time on research.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. I mean, who has time to read through like a 100-page industry report these days? Nobody.
Exactly. So you can use AI to get quick summaries of long documents, pull out key insights, really speed up that whole process.
And that micro-learning piece too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Just-in-time learning, quick refreshers on, I don't know, a competitor's product or maybe a new industry trend right before you jump on a call.
It's like having a personal tutor in your pocket.
Yeah.
And then there's like the whole prep side of things, developing sales pitches, understanding different customer personas, analyzing your competition.
Yeah. AI can be a huge help with all of that.
Yeah.
Getting you up to speed on industry jargon, prepping you for those tough questions, even anticipating potential objections.
Right. And one thing I thought was really interesting, some people are even using AI to figure out how their products or services can help specific roles within a company.
Well, that's a good one. Like, how can my product help a marketing manager achieve their goals? Or how can it make a sales rep's life easier?
That's so smart. And of course, there's the whole automation piece, getting AI to do some of those mundane tasks that eat up your time, like scheduling meetings, summarizing notes, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Freeing you up to do what you do best, which is sell. And we even saw some examples of people using AI to create like fake content for demo environments.
What? Like fake data and stuff?
Exactly. So instead of spending hours building out a realistic demo environment, they could just have AI whip something up in minutes.
Wow. And then there's the editing side of things too, using AI to help you clean up your research, pull out the key takeaways, that kind of thing.
That's right. A lot of these tools can actually do a pretty good job of summarizing articles, reports, even transcripts of calls.
So it's like having a research assistant at your fingertips.
And, a lot of people are using AI to kind of handle some of the initial heavy lifting, like generating email drafts or, summarizing meeting notes and suggesting next steps.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And those are all great. But, it's not all sunshine and roses. There's a flip side to all of this, right? There are risks.
Oh, absolutely. We were looking at a report from McKinsey, and they make a really good point about the importance of, risk mitigation and governance when it comes to AI.
Right, because there are concerns about intellectual property, data privacy, all of that. And, at the end of the day, you need to have a human in the loop. You can't just let the machines run wild.
Agreed. And the real-world experiences that we've been looking at really highlight some of the areas where people are, using caution or maybe even avoiding AI altogether.
Like, where are they drawing the line?
Well, one big one is not letting AI replace human interaction.
Right, right. You can't just automate all your customer communication and expect to build strong relationships.
Exactly. And you have to be careful about bias too, right? The information that AI generates isn't always objective or accurate. So you got to be really careful about how you use it.
Especially in those sensitive situations. And this might seem obvious, but you should never, ever automate your responses to prospects who are in active deals.
Never. Those conversations need that personal touch, that human element. And always, always verify anything that AI generates. Don't just take it at face value.
Fact check, fact check, fact check. And don't just copy and paste either. Personalize those messages. Make them your own.
Yeah, make it sound like you, not like a robot. And please, 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 don't put any proprietary information into those open AI tools.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
And if you are using AI to help you write emails, make sure you're tailoring them to each individual customer. Nobody wants to receive a generic, mass-produced email.
No, it's got to be personal. And, one thing I've noticed is that people are a bit hesitant to rely on AI for completely new information, especially if they don't have a good understanding of the topic themselves.
Yeah, you got to have a baseline of knowledge to be able to evaluate what AI is telling you. And for things that require the most up-to-date information or, where you need linked sources, AI often falls short.
It does. And you have to remember that AI can be biased, it can make mistakes, it can even be downright misleading sometimes. So always review everything carefully.
Always. And don't rely on it for everything. It's a tool, not a replacement for your own judgment.
Right. And you can't just feed it a prompt and expect it to magically give you all the answers. You need to provide context. You need to be specific.
And you definitely shouldn't be using it for, critical things like medical advice. That's just common sense.
Absolutely. And I think there's also a concern that using AI for tasks that are traditionally seen as more personal, like writing emails or crafting sales pitches, could make you come across as lazy or impersonal.
Yeah, like you're not putting in the effort.
So, bringing all of this together for you, our listeners, what are the key takeaways?
I think the biggest one is that generative AI has the potential to be a really powerful tool for salespeople, but it's not a silver bullet.
It's not. And it's
Yeah,
definitely not a replacement for human interaction. It's about finding that balance.
exactly. Using AI to enhance your productivity and efficiency, but not at the expense of the customer experience.
Right. So let's talk about some rules of thumb, practical tips for using AI effectively in sales.
Okay, so based on what we've seen, the top 3 areas where people are seeing the most value from AI are custom research, meeting prep, and email writing.
Okay, those make sense. And on the flip side, where are people being most cautious?
Well, they're definitely not putting any sensitive information into those OpenAI tools.
Yeah.
They're also not hitting send on anything without proofreading and personalizing it.
Yeah.
And they're not using AI for anything that really requires a human touch. Building relationships, handling objections, closing deals. Those are all things that still need that human element.
And that aligns really well with, Bigtincan's focus on improving the buying experience.
It does, doesn't it?
Providing solutions that are smart and flexible and personalized. It's about using technology to enhance those human connections, not replace them.
Exactly. So for you, the learner, the challenge is figuring out how to strike that balance. How can you leverage AI to be more efficient, but without sacrificing that personal touch?
Yeah, that's the question. And to leave you with one final thought to ponder, what are 1 or 2 tasks that you could start experimenting with AI on?
And just as important, what's one area where you're going to absolutely keep doing things the human way?
Great questions to consider. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into generative AI in sales. It's a fascinating topic, and we're going to keep exploring it in future episodes.
And who knows, maybe by then, Jack will have made that leap into full-time podcasting.
We can only hope. And thank you for listening to Enablement Uncanned.